So we just popped over to a job that we're starting on Monday over in, I guess, North Norfolk. It's grade 2 listed. You should see in the background with the scaffold up. Grade 2 listed property. We're going to be undertaking some brick repairs and replacements, a lot of repointing, a lot of sort of coping work, some chimneys rebuild, partial rebuilds, roofing work and repairs to windows. And I just thought we'd try and document this a little better, because a lot of our projects get some work done in terms of content, and then we forget and we do it at the end and you miss the process. So I'm going to try my best to document this, particularly the decisions that we make and the reasons why we make them. So on this one, there's been a bit of contention, nothing too dramatic, but a bit of contention over which mortars to use. I'm not entirely pleased with the outcome. We're going to be using a lime putty 3-in-1 with a plastering sand. Ratios I'm fine with, I don't mind that at all, but I just don't think the putty is an appropriate mix for external brick pointing. I'd love for anyone who's in the know to comment and tell me that I'm wrong. My belief on this one, and I haven't seen any mortar analysis been done, my belief is that this is, if anything, a hot mixed mortar, original bedded. There are not any damp issues, so I don't really understand why we're not going either with a hot mixed mortar, possibly with a pozzolan, just to give us a little bit of control over the set, or why we're not just using an NHL 2.0, nice and simple, compatible. It isn't going to exacerbate any damp issues because there aren't any. Specifier wasn't interested in really changing his mind on their original mortar, so we'll do it, we'll go with it, and we'll make a good job of it. But it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on that if you have any. I'm going to jump on the scaffold now, mark up some bricks to come out, and so yeah, the lads will be here Monday. Bit more of the team joining Tuesday, and they'll get on with cutting out, prepping the brickwork ready for the new mortars to go in. All right, we'll see you on the scaffolding. All right, so we're up on the scaffolding, and you can see the sort of decay that we've got on the pointing up here. This is on the gable. So it's been exposed for obviously a number of years. Now, I think, although these mortars are quite hard, there's no question that they're not lime. But I believe that they show indications of hot mixing, at least quick lime. I'm trying to find, I don't know if it will show on camera very well, but there is the little white lumps of calcium that indicate a late slate, because it hasn't slaked, but unslaked lime in the mortar mixes. Good amount of aggregate in there. Again, the wall's dry. There's no issues with damp, which is surprising. Decayed bricks, which, you know, in fairness, are an indication that the mortar around them is too hard, and the bricks bearing the brunt of the moisture transfer. So maybe I'm wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. But yeah, I'd love to get anyone's opinion on this, so jump in the comments, let me know your thoughts or any questions you might have. I'll do my best to answer. So we've been doing this a long time, but always coming up against scenarios that we don't know, and we have to go and research and be prepared to be proven wrong, which we're more than happy to be in the pursuit of becoming better and improving the knowledge of the team and the business overall. So jump in, let me know. Don't be too harsh. Good at this. So that's quite a boring process for people to watch, but it is quite important because we don't want to be taking out materials that don't need to come out. The point of what we do is to conserve the building in its most original form if we can. So this is an original gable. There's been some interventions and some atrocities on it over the years, but generally speaking it's not in that bad condition. So we don't want to be removing history in the material if we don't have to. So what I'm doing is marking up the bricks that are deemed too far gone. I mean, some of these are borderline. We might, when we check it with a client, just get them to make that decision with us. I think there's a provisional sum in here for about 40 bricks on this elevation, so if we can get that number down without it being at the detriment of the building, then that is what we'll try and do. But this is quite an important part of the process, so that we don't end up losing more of the fabric than we really want to. So hopefully you can wake up now from that part of the video. When we get back to this area to cut these out, I will try and convince the lads to film that so you can see the methods that we use. There's a few different ways of doing it. I think we're going to be using an Arbortech, which is a great little bit of kit, but we may end up just cutting them out by hand. So we will, I'll try and, they don't really want to be on video, so we'll try and convince them to do that, and we will let you know, keep you in the loop as it progresses. So this is an area where it's difficult to specify the correct mortar. And there's such a lot of conversation around the different types of lime mortar and reasons why you should use them and the types that you should specify. And I understand all that. I've been doing this for a very long time. On these low level sections where actually, you know, there is water ingress, they have got a slight damp issue on the inside of this, not helped by modern plasters, of course. So that is probably, you know, partly why we've got so much decay in this area. But natural hydraulic lime below ground is where they would historically have been used, because they will set underwater, put a level of clay content in them, which gives it a hydraulic set. So there isn't as much free lime in them, so it's not as good at allowing the removal of moisture through the mortar joints. We accept that. In this scenario then, where we have got some damp coming from the ground, which we are going to put in some French drains and lower these levels, is it better then to have a lime mortar mixed with a high capillarity, so a more free lime? So that would be your hot mix mortars or your putties. Or is it better in this scenario to go with an NHL to try and prevent that moisture getting in the wall, but allow it to get out at a slower rate? I'm only questioning this really to get other people's opinions. I've got my own opinion on this, but it'd be great for others to jump on, try and get a bit of a conversation around it, because I think there is maybe not enough constructive conversations about Putty versus NHL, and then the conversation of, I mean, I know from experience with the masons that we employ and have employed over the years that they just don't understand how to use the hot mixes, because it's been made to be a complicated thing, and I don't think it actually is. So yeah, opinions would be appreciated just to get the conversation about it. I mean, we are going with the specified mix of lime putty mixed to a 3-to-1. So the horse is bolted on this one, but future projects, it'd be good to have a bit more information from maybe people who are actually using the mortars rather than people who are just specifying them. So that's just a little introduction into the early stages of a conservation or restoration project. There's a lot of work that goes into these projects before you even get to this point. We've been going back and forwards with the client for months. We've already done the first phase of work there, which was some roofing work and some internal sheep's wool insulation and bits and bobs. So because of the mortar mixes being putty, we had to wait to get, make sure that we were into the good weather so we could make a start on the site. So this has been going on for months and months. We've got a great relationship with the client. They really trust our approach, which is key, because I think, again, I don't want this to become a theme where it sounds like I'm bashing the industry, because I love the industry, but I do think in conservation work there is a bit of an industry within it whereby things are made to be a lot more complicated than they actually need to be, and it's a very, very simple set of principles that we work to in conservation, and it all relates back to understanding the original building and how the original building was built. We'll go into that in further detail in different videos as we sort of build the channel out, but for now I just wanted to give you a little insight into this part of the project and the thought processes behind the selections. We've still got to go through brick selection, which is another bit of a minefield, particularly on this building, because there's been different phases of extensions over the years. We don't want to pick one brick that we're going to use universally. I want to make sure that we get a good match on each elevation, which is sort of making a rod for my own back, but we will get a much better project, or finish the project if we do go through that process now. So I'll leave you with that, and I'd love to get some comments on particularly the lime mortars. As I say, I'm not trying to dig anyone out. I don't know that I'm right in what my assumption is. We've done a lot of research, we've done a lot of reading, but we actually use the mortars day to day. And typically, I mean, I've run a restoration business since 2014. Previously, I was working for another company for 5 years, and almost exclusively we've used NHLs. That isn't a reason enough to continue doing it if the data is now suggesting that it isn't the right thing for the building. I want to explore and start using more quick limes, because I think we've got the knowledge in the business and the understanding to do it. What I don't want to do is be using mortars that are not appropriate and don't add to the fabric of the building on what someone who has never actually used them has asserted. On paper, in principle, I get it, and it makes sense to use it, but that doesn't always translate well to site usage. you cannot be mixing up the volume of mortar that we need in tiny batches, and there's a lot of different methods to mixing hot lime mortars. So these type of conversations are the ones that I want to be having. If anyone's got any insight into that, either find us on Instagram, send me a DM, or send me an email, masonry@johnbriggsandson.co.uk. Find us online. If you want to give me a call and we can have a conversation. I'd love to open the conversation out a bit further and bring some proper insight into the mortar mixes. We haven't got an agenda, there's no bias towards one or the other. We just want to be making sure that we're doing the right thing for the buildings. And I think you cannot just say NHLs are bad across the board, and you can't say quick limes are correct across the board. A conversation has to be had about that, and it has to come from a practical standpoint as well as knowing the academia. So please get in contact. If you've got a project you want to discuss, also get in contact. We operate across Norfolk, but for the right project we would go a little further afield if it's a good project fit, client fit, and we feel that we can add real value to it. We would go further afield. So love to have a conversation with anyone. Get in contact and let us try and help you look after your building, because it's not an easy thing to do, and it is a lot of the time a thankless task. So we understand that, and we want to help. All right, we'll see you in a future video. Ta-da.